Hello, and welcome to the CXO Programs track at Zenith Live. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Julia Cummings, and I'm excited to see you all here today, where we'll be diving deep into zero trust strategy conversations for changing business needs. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce our first CXO program session. To kick it off, we'll hear from a panel of executives on how they have partnered across the C-suite. So please welcome Jay Chaudhry.
Great. Thank you, Julia. Great. All right.
Jason.
Hi, Julia. Hope the discussion this morning made sense. Did it? Great. So this is an opportunity for us to have a little bit more dialogue back and forth where you couldn't really ask questions in that big room. We could be a little bit more Q&A centric session. We do have a panel, and we chose panel carefully. If you listen to our conversation this morning, it said, transformation is not led by one team. It requires multiple teams. So our three esteemed panelists, Sudhir with CIO, CDO background, all business-centric stuff, Jeremy with a CISO background and hub, and Jason, actually running both network and security engineering. So we thought this dialogue will give us a little bit of view of how peer collaboration happens. But it'll be open to essentially Q&A. We are going to keep the discussion open. I'm merely moderating a few things. I would rather have more questions answered from the audience than me trying to come up with. So with that, let me welcome our panelists to the stage. So perhaps we can start with introductions, and we have one slide about each company put together, and then we're going to have them explain a little bit about the business and the role. Jason, we start with you.
Sure.
Your focus area, and everyone knows Humana, but there are some interesting things you're doing these days.
Yeah, we're a healthcare,
Right.
complete healthcare services organization, founded in the early 60s and based out of Louisville, Kentucky. But through multiple rounds of mergers and acquisitions, we're over 100,000 employees right now.
Wow.
And definitely in the journey, a lot of digital transformation journeys, and we can discuss that later today. But happy to be here. We have a great partnership with Zscaler. I think we're probably in the first or second customer ever of Zscaler.
Yeah, very, very early on.
Yeah.
It was kind of a little bit daunting to have a 60,000 person company come on board, but 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to Jeremy.
Yeah, so Jeremy Abalabala with Hub International. Been there for about 5 years. Actually put Zscaler in at Hub right when we got there. Hub is a large international insurance brokerage firm. Really, we're in the risk business, so we're there to be wherever risk is and be able to help our customers, their families, and their corporations navigate those waters. The next slide, please.
All right. Cheers.
And so we're growing very, very quickly. We do 60 to 70 acquisitions a year. We've got about 15,000 employees. So that comes with quite a lot of unique challenges. We're a top 5 global broker in terms of scale, and we got over 2 million clients. So we're big and we're growing very quickly.
That's very good. Sudhir, AmeriSave.
Hi, I'm Sudhir, Chief Digital Officer for AmeriSave. AmeriSave is one of the largest mortgage lenders. It used to be just a mortgage lender. About 20 years in existence, the company's had. Most of what we do was in the home lending space up until a couple of years ago when we started diversifying. And now we are into consumer loans, personal loans, getting into adjacent businesses within the home ecosystem, such as home insurance, warranty, realty services, and then also putting solar on your roof, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of other adjacencies that we have expanded into. And if you look at our model, we've got pretty much a retail footprint, which is in market. serving zip codes and counties and so on and so forth across all the 50 states, as well as a corporate contact center, a direct-to-consumer model, and a wholesale broker model. So we kind of hit B2E, B2B, and B2C, segmentation as well. So that's who we are. Most of our software is done internally. That's why we are a fintech. Our platforms are all internally developed with a lot of sophistication around modernization into more of the cloud native and microservices side of the house, which is why Zscaler is extremely important to us. This is my second time around implementing Zscaler.
Yes.
I've done it once before and have had a tremendous amount of success in a very similar model. And it also helps us protect our not just our consumers, but even our employees, and keep them safe online, wherever they are, even working from India or Philippines or other locations and such. So.
Great. So building upon that, I think our next thing will be with your intro. If you can summarize what you've done in some of the transformation, application, network security, or what you're trying to do, then the audience will have good perspective of asking relevant questions. So why don't you continue? What are you trying to drive? What have you done? And where are you headed?
So most of there's a thought process in the industry that digital modernization or digital transformation is initiated by technology and business folks, which is actually not accurate. It's initiated by all of us consumers. Why? Because our patterns have changed.
Yeah.
Our requirements have changed. And the ability for us, thanks to likes of Amazon, ability for us to get something to a closure, that lifespan has changed as well. So when you look at it from that perspective, we all have to change our business models to serve that consumer better. And some of it is they start in a self-service mode and then off-ramp into assisted service mode. To us, that is a pretty complex problem to solve. Why? Because it involves not just our systems, but our employees and our consumers operating from different locations, and they are at different levels of computing and endpoint devices that they use. So the network's involved.
Right.
The security, is involved on top of that. And then once they hit the application, be that self-service, or if it is somebody that is helping that consumer, that adds a little bit more sophistication to getting data centers involved if you have one still, and if you're in the middle of transforming into the cloud or a public cloud data center, public or private, doesn't matter. So now what you just did is you created a hub and spoke. What used to be a hub and spoke has now become much more of a hub and hub, sort of situation. Very sophisticated requirement when it comes to protecting our employees, making sure they have a safe zone as they are helping those customers. And then when COVID came about, that accelerated some of this requirement and made it a little bit more complicated. Why? Because employees are not in a corporate center anymore, or they are not in a retail location. They actually are sitting in their homes. In the financial services space, as you know, we are a very highly regulated industry. So the privacy concerns associated with also, the number of bad actors online became a concern, not just for the consumer, but also for our employees. So we had to go with a solution that encompasses all these factors, at the same time make progression in our software assets that we have and get that going. And that's why it's a team effort. It's not just only software, or it's not just the role of a security officer to take care of the safety and privacy of our customers. It's everybody. So it's the network team, it's the software development organization, it's the security organization, and actually it's also the business. Because of their footprints and their existence, not just within the enterprise, but outside as well, because they use business partners for outsourcing certain parts of it. So that's really the digital transformation that has occurred.
Yeah. Good. Jeremy, what are you driving? What have you done? That'll give the audience perspective to ask questions.
Yeah, so to add to Sudhir's comments around digital transformation and the customers really driving that, Hub is experiencing a similar type of transformation and drive to change our business based upon our customers' needs. Traditionally, insurance is very much a brick and mortar type of industry, but we've realized over the last couple of years, especially during COVID, that we've got to meet our customers where they want to be met, how they want to be met. It doesn't mean the brick and mortar is going away, but we've had to make investments in digital channel and build that out to be able to come to our customers in a new way because of the current situation we're in the world today, but also, customers want to be reached differently as people have embraced digital more and more in their lives, right? They do more digital throughout the rest of their lives. They want to buy insurance digitally as well. And that turns in, also crosses over into our commercial lines as well. And so that requires us to work differently and collaborate differently. So we actually just launched last week a new digital platform called View by Hub, which is our transactional lines platform. It's been kind of a big undertaking for Hub, where previously, I guess I mentioned we did a lot of brick and mortar business and had call center originating business. We used all off-the-shelf software. So this is the first kind of big development shop program that we had. Seemingly overnight, we have a full-blown agile development team and a whole product suite behind that. And so we've had to work differently as a security organization with the business, with our IT partners, to make that a reality and make that a success, and to make sure that we're providing the product and services that our customers want in an efficient and secure manner. And that's required us to operate differently than we did before. So security is less around traditionally around maybe setting some drawing lines in the sand and governing to a book of standards. And it's much more about being agile, enabling a DevSecOps model and managing the quality outcomes. And so that's kind of the shift we've had to make in the last year or so.
And you're providing secure access to your employees from wherever, whatever.
100%. Yep. We rolled out, we've been a ZIA customer for I said, about 5 years. We actually used ZPA for some limited use cases around our third-party access in some of our M&A situations before COVID. And then about 2 weeks before COVID rolled out, the lockdown happened. We saw the kind of the writing on the wall was coming, and we actually deployed it out to everybody. All 15,000 employees that we had. So when the lockdown happened, we were actually able to enable people to go home from our 570 offices, take their equipment, go home, plug it in, and seamlessly everything worked for us. So it was a big success story for us.
Great. Jason, Humana, it's amazing the way you guys are changing, building new businesses, trying to transform all of this. Where are you? What have you guys done? And what are you trying to do?
I guess it's open. I'm not going to repeat what some of my colleagues here have stated. I just want to focus on, what's important to us is growing our member base, right? And growing our market share. And obviously one of the best ways of doing that is through mergers and acquisitions. And Zscaler has been a huge part of that. How do we get up to speed with mergers and acquisitions? And similar to my colleagues here, definitely, Humana, we're shifting our business to be more of a comprehensive services and value-based healthcare provider. And so with that, we need to look at, our enterprise capabilities at a product offering level. And that has made the technology teams to really focus on technology modernization around, transition to cloud, the decomposition of monolithic applications, the adoption of microservices, and looking at all of our data feeds going into our data platforms. And so, all of that deals with security, all of that deals with network, and Zscaler has been a huge factor of that.
Thank you. I'm sure you got some questions coming up. I'd rather have you ask questions rather than me come up with questions. John? And can you introduce yourself and the company you're with so the audience knows? Yeah.
Good afternoon. John Maya from Royal Caribbean Group. So the question is, could you talk a little bit about the dynamics with your peer organizations? Because I know you have representation from the CDO, CISO, CTO. Unless you guys were able to do that independently, can you tell me how you worked with your peers to pull this off? And any challenges, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, candid answers.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so-
Candid is good. Okay.
So, that's an area that is continually having to grow, right? As technology progresses, the world changes. We're having the lines are blending between teams as far as responsibility and technology management, with cloud and digital especially, right? So it's important for us to have stronger partnerships and to be less focused on our individual silos and focused on outcomes. So, we find ourselves asking, how do we understand the needs of the business, and how do we put the business first, identify the outcomes the business is looking to achieve, and how do we partner together, right, with the business, with IT, with security, with data, with legal, finance, all of our other stakeholder partners, to come up with solutions that are going to work to meet those outcomes, versus worrying about security in a silo or IT in a silo, et cetera.
So perhaps security more as an enabler rather than
Security as an enabler.
Can I add to my colleague here?
Yeah.
So I like your question. It's always the classic example of what does network own, or what does security own?
Right.
What does platform own, right? And, really it comes down to, who has decision rights, and who is accountable for actions. And, what he said earlier, like lines are blurred between network security, lines are blurred between security and platform, especially as we go in the cloud. And what I inform the team, I'm lucky to have, infrastructure engineering, network and security. So I'm in a different position, but I think what's important is every person in technology really needs to have security embedded in their mindset and really focus on what's most important, which is delivering business functionality, right? Stability, resiliency, and in securing the environment. And so I take a look at Zscaler example. We have security focused on creating and developing the policy on what to protect and how to protect. And then we have, let's say, the networking team. They're the ones that deliver and execute how to easily connect all the environments together using Zscaler. Yeah.
I just like to add one more thing to, some wonderful information that these guys have shared. Change management, huge problem. In the world of transformation, that's a huge challenge. So one of the things that we made sure, in between the different roles that are there, that are specialized in vertical areas like infrastructure, security, software development. Don't forget data.
Right.
Is the ability to kind of explain the change, define what is the change, and also make them recognize they have to change as well.
Right. Yes.
If they don't understand that there is a change coming,
Yes.
it's going to be difficult for them to be part of the change and be the change agent itself. So that is something that lessons learned for many of us is to make sure that we put that in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
The teams need to understand what their part in building that home is, for example, and to actually make it in a way that you have to make sure the transformation is happening not just for the sake of transformation, but for the business to grow and scale. And so if they understand that change, if they understand their role in that change, they will work together as a team. That's a lesson we've learned. But a lot of times, that's something that you take it as a given. And I think that's a lessons learned, from about 7 years ago that I've had, working in a big, large bank where we took it for granted. Did not work.
Yeah. The biggest lesson I learned at Zscaler is not about technology, about really bringing people along, change, discomfort, and all this stuff. Being able to show them that this is not that you're going to lose your job or something. IT is short of resources, security, networking. It's really showing them the opportunity that the future with this new world is better if you adapt and change and pick up some more skill set. That's what we need to strive for. You have a question?
So,
Yeah.
Rashid, we're a new implementer of Zscaler.
Mm-hmm.
We start our architectural phase in the next 2 weeks. Understand mindset change definitely has to happen throughout the organization, but I wanted to get a take of any technical challenges that outside of the standards that you guys have encountered. I know, Sudhir, you've gone through 2 of these. Zscaler implementations, and the others. Is there anything that someone new coming in, architecting, dropping in, ZIA, ZPA, and the other tool sets that you really should be concerned with outside of the standard?
We have gone through ZPA, ZIA, and we're looking at all other product sets as well. One of the things that people forget is when we replaced many of our N number of VPN we had, they forget to turn it off. So they first go log in through VPN, and then they say, "Where is my Zscaler icon in there?" So those are minor things, but they matter.
Yeah.
The other part that we've also seen is people complain. It used to work fine until you install Zscaler. And for a couple of folks, we told them, we actually haven't even come to you yet. So there's a lot of work to do technically to kind of disable some of the things away from what they have. You also have to look at if there are other tools and technologies that run either on your software suite that may actually have negative.
The endpoint software, it is conflict testing that becomes important. Yeah.
Those are things that I would really look for. I would also make sure that it's optimized and configured for the type of work. Either it's a desktop or a workstation or even a remote desktop, right? Make sure that that's all optimized properly. So those are all some of the smaller issues, but that can create a lot of noise, and that's a problem.
I'll give you some advice on, since we then, it depends on really, are you doing ZIA for what purpose, or ZPA, ZDX? Are you doing Cloud Connector or App Connector, right? Because Cloud Connector is coming in, App Connector is coming in, Cloud Connector is going out, right? So it depends on if you are trying to do ZDX and you have like a Z agent, like what else do you have on your computer? Like, do you have a ThousandEyes agent? Do you have a Dynatrace agent? All these can cause additional network traffic that you don't want, like either ICMP trace routes. It'll cause a lot of havoc in your network. So you really got to focus on what do you really want first. Design it appropriately. Let me do a plug to the Zscaler professional service team, like AJ, and you just got to make sure you focus on what you want, what's most important to you.
So a good project management plan is needed. And it's good to have a jointly developed plan between your team and our team. So they really do it right, and a good project manager to drive it. Many times, I say, why isn't this thing progressing fast? I go to my team and many times say, well, the customer is kind of taking its own time. Come on, who is the customer sponsor? I bet the CIO or leader is looking for deadlines. So having a good project plan, jointly developed the milestone, is always key to success. If you don't have targets and deadlines, things keep on expanding.
I would say there's always going to be some gotchas here and there. Yeah. We did big bang deployment for ZIA across our entire organization, and we had small hiccups. And this was even before the agents, before the tunnels. We were using the pack files originally back in the day. We since migrated forward, right? But overall, for the scale of the deployment, very few issues.
I would add one more thing to that list, which is make sure you ask the customer the question. If you have different type of users from using different endpoints from different locations, that matters. Like for us, we have brokers that are not employees of AmeriSave, right? Now, the way they access is different. The way what they have on their desktop is different. Versus somebody sitting in a corporate center versus somebody sitting in a retail branch. So you should understand their business model and what have they deployed to each of these, different user groups, if you will. Then you can optimize it to run properly, not interfere with everything else.
Good.
Good
Here's
project
a question.
plan, important.
Yeah. Here's a mic. Okay.
Hello, my name is Ron Wildman with the NJ Courts. Actually, we were put up on the screen today, which really made me proud. But we deployed, it took about 2 years to kind of roll out the entire Zscaler portfolio, ZPA, ZIA. We do ZDX, we do Advanced Sandbox. We started off with our remote users first because we were forced to get in like almost 10,000 users working remotely, which we transitioned over to Zscaler. Then we brought it internal. We kept that same type of plan to keep everybody logging into Zscaler, whether or not they're on-prem or working remotely. Do you have any advice about segmenting the network now? Because in your environments, when you're on-prem, you could log into Zscaler, but it's still not truly like, zero trust until you actually segment out your critical systems.
Yes. So I'll give a short answer and see if any of you know. Segmentation is one of the very important value we create. Most customers start when they say, I had VPN, there's no segmentation. Let's go and access it. That's a good starting point. VPN replacement gives you two big benefits, even without segmentation. Your attack surface goes away, you're hidden behind us. Number two, the lateral movement goes away. But segmentation is the next phase. All of you should be doing what I call user-to-app segmentation. Probably most of you are doing much harder segmentation called micro-segmentation of tens of thousands of applications. And those projects are hard. By the time you look at combination and permutation processes, they're so big, it never works. First step, take your third-party contractors. Okay, put them on. Only these applications can be used. They should never be on the network. Second, segmentation. Find out your mission-critical applications. There can't be too many. If there are too many, then they're not mission-critical. Mission-critical really, generally here are X dozen or X score applications. Put them on a separate network segment, set up a ZPA policy. This group of users can access only mission-critical, no one else can. That's not hard to do. That's the highest impact thing you can do because mission-critical applications are far more important than 200 other applications that may not matter. So get some help from our team. Segmentation will become the most important stuff because you want to minimize some of those things.
Just to add to that, so segmentation is hard. The hardest part about it is understanding what users are doing. Right? What do they need access to? Right. So one of the things that we found very helpful when we deployed ZPA was the audit capability. There's the ability to put it out there in learning mode and see what people are hitting, what applications are hitting, and build that user perspective of these users are hitting these applications. And that will allow you to go down that path of segmenting applications by users, as Jay elaborated on.
Yeah. Look, we have a couple of minutes left. I'd like to have one piece of advice, one and only one, from each of you with all the stuff you learned. If there's one piece of advice you have for the CXOs, what would that be? Jason, you want to start?
Okay, sure. With that gentleman, I'll come find you after the meeting, tell you how to, depending if you're internal. But the one piece of advice, I look at it, I think it was at Sudhir said it's, you're looking at, in today's world, it's more about the employee experience of, how they work, how they connect. You want to provide a seamless, frictionless way of working. And I think right now that's important because they have a lot of options. Retaining talent is so key. There's so many places to go. So as leaders, how do we make sure that we provide a work environment that suits them, a work style that suits them to be creative, for them to easily collaborate with their coworkers? And so that's my advice, is to focus on how do we create as leaders a very effective working environment, from security to connectivity to just overall user experience. Yeah.
Jeremy? Yeah,
so I'll leave you with a piece of advice that I feel like is a message that I'm always reinforcing with my teams. And that's that as security practitioners, we tended to take an academic view of information security when we're trying to solve problems, protect the organization. And that can be a pitfall in and of itself. So going back to some of the previous comments that we made, put the business first, keep those business objectives and outcomes in mind. And if you start there, it's going to make your life a lot easier and you'll be much more successful. And what I always remind my teams is that we're not here to provide information security for our organization. We're here to enable the business to grow and be successful. And we do that through information security. And if we start with that lens versus the academic or scientific lens of security, we're going to be much more successful, and we're going to have much less friction in doing so.
Steve.
I would say something kind of along the lines of change management is get the feedback loop. Once after you deploy something, you need to go back to those users and make sure that you confirm that they are able to operate successfully. If you don't get that feedback loop, you will have challenges. There won't be adoption, and that will cause issues with the team. The team will start looking at that and thinking it's a failure on their part, and then that's not a good place to be. So I think factoring in your plan to have that feedback loop mechanism is something that's very important. One other way you can do that is to roll it out in waves. We've tried that. While that's going to slow down you a little bit, if you actually put the feedback loop in place, that's actually going to be working better. But the only thing is, if you put the feedback loop in place, be ready with your support organization to be responding to them. That's the lessons learned and advice I would say to all of you.
Yeah. If I had to give you one piece of advice, I'll give you that. I mean, something like digital experience, ZDX, gives you far more understanding of what's happening. Otherwise, the notion of things are slow, not working.
Yep.
This is the best thing we built, because the customer said, I need transparency on where issues are. And when you are working from wherever, whatever, your old tools that are meant for a branch-centric network, they no longer work. With that, we are out of time. I want to thank the panel for sharing their learnings and thoughts. Thank you. And the next panel is ready with our experts to share with you the more Q&A with our technology experts for you in this small setting. So Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sherman, that's been great. I'll take it.